Hello everyone, today I'll be showing you 10 of my favorite front wheel drive cars in GTA Online. And without further ado, let's get into it. The BF Club. The Club is based off of a Volkswagen Mark I Golf. And I think Rockstar actually did a pretty good job with this car. It does look like its real life counterpart for the most part. There are subtle differences where you can tell that it is obviously GTA, but overall not bad. It handles pretty decently for a front wheel drive car. Now, I am not educated in race standards of front wheel drive cars in GTA Online, so I cannot say this is the fastest or it feels like the fastest, but it does feel pretty decent overall, and at least to me is a very fun car to drive. I like driving it around circuits like this. I think on dirt it absolutely sucks, but that's with basically every front wheel drive car, because you don't have that traction that all wheel drive or even rear wheel drive offers. And that is all for performance. Now let's talk about customization. The Club is actually a fantastic car in terms of customization. There are so many options you can do. You can do rally, you can do street, you can do off-road. Although I wouldn't do off-road, but if you're up to it, knock yourself out, you know. But I did a relatively clean build. I didn't want to go too overboard, but I could have if I wanted to, because the customizations are readily available. Now, my great disappointment with customization in this car, unfortunately, there is a roof rack option, and I love roof racks on these types of cars, but it is not black, it is chrome. And I think on this car it looks horrible because I'm like, why would they not offer a black roof rack? It is my great sadness that they don't, and I just opted to not put a roof rack because the chrome kind of throws off the whole vibe I'm going for. But that's really the only nitpick I have. Overall, this car is very great. The customization is solid, the performance is solid by today's standards, and is a very fun car. I will say it is a little bit pricey for what you get, but that is GTA Online basically in 2023. The Dinka Sugoi. The Sugoi is based off of a 10th generation Honda Civic, and I love this generation of Civic. A lot of people say it's overstyled, hence my license plate, but I really think, you know, Honda really makes pretty standard cars, pretty standard economy cars, and they just want to do something that's a little more exciting. I get that it is supposed to be a performance car, but at the end of the day, it's still a Honda Civic. But that's the real life version. Let's talk about GTA now. In GTA, this car is pretty great. It doesn't have too much customization options. It does have some decent ones. As you can see here, you can make it into a Type R looking Civic if you wanted to, which is basically all I care about. But it is unfortunate that there is not a lot of rally options for this car, because although the real life Civic I think was not very popular in rally racing, the option to have it still would be nice. Now, the Sugoi is actually a very nice handling car. For front wheel drive, it really is good, just like its real life counterpart. And I think it is definitely my top 3 favorite front wheel drive cars in GTA Online, because it doesn't beat you up for being front wheel drive. You know, a lot of these cars, they just suck to drive because they're terrible, they're sluggish, they're slow around corners. This car is not. It really is exciting to drive in GTA Online, and that's why it's probably one of my favorites. Maybe I am a bit biased because I do love the real life version of this car, but even in GTA, it is still a great car. It is pretty cheap. You can pick it up for very cheap, relatively, for GTA standards. And it has been on the wheel countless times. I mean, it has probably been on the wheel at the casino over 5 times at this point. So expect it to go on the wheel if you don't want to buy it. But overall, to wrap it up, this car is very great. I love it. Customization is decent, but performance is very good. The Dinka Kanjo. The Kanjo is based off of a 6th generation Honda Civic hatch, and I absolutely love how this car looks. I definitely think less is more in terms of customization, but if you wanted the option to, you could definitely go for a more race car sort of look. They have big spoilers, they have crazy liveries, and I actually had that sort of style, but I reverted to a sort of clean style on my car just because I think it looks a little bit better. But the driving experience is pretty good. I mean, you think for an older car like this, front wheel drive, you think it'd be slow and sluggish. I mean, this car is by no means fast, but the handling is decent, the speed is decent, and this car is just a thrill to drive. With the performance, the customization, this car is just nice. I don't quite know how else to explain it, but I think the Kanjo is a great looking car overall. It is often on the wheel or a prize ride, and it is often discounted, and even if it's not discounted, it's a pretty cheap car, so you can pick it up pretty cheap. And if you're an enthusiast, this is a pretty cool car to have. I love how it is, I love how it drives, I love everything about the car. I have absolutely nothing but good things to say about it. You can complain about the handling, the speed, sure, but for the price, can you really do much complaining? I mean, the car is not that expensive by modern GTA Online standards, so you definitely get what you get with this car, but what you get is a fantastic car, fantastic looking car, and a car with good customization overall. Moreover, not a bad deal. The Dinka Ballista Compact. The Ballista Compact is based off of a 1980s Honda CRX. And if I thought the last car was cheap, this car is cheap. It is like $30,000. For me, it's free because I transferred over from Xbox 360 to Xbox One a while ago, and they had the special promotion, so I still have that promotion. But if you don't have it, it's not like $30,000 is all that much, really. Now, the thing I am most sad about is that the car doesn't have a lot of customization, but once again, for a relatively old car, I mean, this car came out a while ago. I think it came out in the I'm Not a Hipster update, which is one of the first updates GTA Online received, so you can't really be all that mad about what the car doesn't offer. But I definitely just drive it for the novelty. The performance is pretty terrible, even by modern standards. It's just absolutely bad. It's atrocious. The turning is sluggish, the speed is slow. It's just overall not a great car. I just have it because I like the CRX, I like the novelty of owning one in GTA Online, and it just fits for my JDM garage that I have. So overall, do not expect the Ballista Compact to be anything particularly special. It doesn't have a lot of customization, doesn't have particularly great performance, but it is a novelty to have in GTA Online, and that's mainly the reason why I own it. But it still looks good, you know. If you want to go for customization, definitely less is more with this car anyways. So even if they did have more options for this car, I would still probably keep it as I have it. And if you're an enthusiast of old Hondas, I definitely would buy this because, once again, it's very cheap. There's really no reason not to have it unless you just don't want it to take up the storage. The Dinka Kanjo SJ. The Kanjo SJ is a mix of a 5th generation and a 6th generation Honda Civic because it takes the back of a 6th generation Honda Civic and the front of a 5th generation Honda Civic. So it is a mix of the two, and I honestly don't think it looks that bad. But honestly, I would have preferred just a straight out 5th generation. I'm not sure why they had to combine the 6th generation with the 5, but it is what it is. Because this car is newer, it has pretty good customization, which is great because in real life, this car has years and absolute millennias of aftermarket support, so it definitely makes sense why it does in GTA Online. You can go for any sort of look you want. You can go for street, you can go for track. I just wanted to keep things relatively simple, so I went for a simple street build, black with the white rims, and I really think it looks great. To wrap up the Kanjo SJ, I would just say don't expect too much from the car because, once again, it is a relatively old car. In real life, of course, in the game it's relatively new, but the performance is not particularly great. You are once again getting it for the novelty of owning a Honda Civic in GTA Online. And as an enthusiast, I definitely appreciate when Rockstar adds these type of cars. It really is cool, and I do love the Kanjo SJ as it is. The Volkswagen Ingu. The Ingu is based off of a few wagons, but most notably is based off of a 93 Volvo 850 Estates, a B4 Volkswagen Passat wagon, and a 96 Nissan Stagea, which are only the most noticeable wagons derived from this car. I mean, this car is based off of a lot, but I think that makes it all the more cool because they actually made it look pretty well put together. I mean, this car doesn't look like a hodgepodge of a bunch of different cars. It looks like a solid built single car. But getting back into the GTA Online aspect of it, this doesn't have any customization. Basically, as you can see here, this is the most you can customize it. There are no spoilers, there are no lip spoilers, there are no nothing. This car is pretty bare bones, and the handling pretty much reflects that. The handling is not very good, the speed is not very good. Once again, this is definitely a car that you drive for the novelty of driving an old car, for the excitement of it, even though this car is not very exciting. I mostly just keep it in my garage for it to sit because in GTA Online, I like to drive my cars, and this car is just pretty terrible to drive. It's slow, which is bad in GTA Online because if you're getting shot at by a oppressor or someone, you need to drive away pretty fast, and this will not do that. If you try to turn really fast in this car, well, you can't because you'd have to slow down. But I drive it for the novelty factor, and I do appreciate owning it. The Fudo GTX. The Fudo GTX is based off of a 80s Toyota Sprinter Terreno, also known as the AE86. When this came out as part of the Tuners DLC, I think it gave Rockstar a lot of credibility with the car guy community in GTA Online because this was a very anticipated car. I mean, everyone wanted this. It was pretty much known that this was going to be released when the Tuners DLC was announced, because how can you do a Tuners DLC and not add this car? You know, like, they go side by side. Lots of customization. The customization is very good. Although it is pretty much reused Tuners DLC customization, it is still pretty decent for the car. There are a lot of spoiler options. There are a lot of roof options. You could really do anything you really want to it. The performance is not very great. This is definitely not a car for speed. This is a car for drifting. A lot of people still haven't perfected the Tuners DLC drifting because it is kind of tricky with the low grip tires and the drifting style that it forces you to have. But if you wanted to learn that sort of drifting style in GTA Online, this would definitely be the car I would use, because I mean, come on, it's a Toyota Terreno. Why would you not do it just for the novelty of driving it? It is unfortunate to me, however, that it isn't any faster, because once again, I don't really like drifting, but I mean, a little bit more speed would have been nice. Let's just put it like that. The Dinka Ballista. The Ballista is based off of a third generation Volkswagen Scirocco, but it does take inspiration from many cars as well, sort of similarly to the Ingu. But the car I see most when I look at the Ballista is the Volkswagen Scirocco, particularly from the front, but it does have the back of a few others. Moving on to customization. Customization is pretty bare bones with this car. There is not a lot of customization at all, which is very unfortunate. I think this car would benefit hugely from just a tiny spoiler at the top and a carbon fiber lip. That would be absolutely fantastic, but it doesn't have that, so it is what it is. Performance is not particularly great, but it's not a terrible car to drive at all, really. I mean, it's just slow, which pretty much all these cars are because they're front-wheel drive. So don't expect none of these to be particularly fast. But I think the Ballista definitely is pretty much at the bottom of the ladder in terms of front-wheel drive cars, because it's not very great. The customization isn't great, and the car overall is not great. I mean, this car is pretty much just standard 2013 GTA Online car. It is found off the street, which pretty much every car found off the street doesn't have a lot of customization, so I can't blame it in that aspect. But I can blame it for being slow because it is 2023. But overall, the Ballista is pretty much a bare bones car. Once again, I would drive this car simply for the novelty and to have it just to own as part of a collection within a garage. The Dinka Postwood. The Postwood is based off of a first generation Honda Prelude. I think it's absolutely hilarious how they named it the Postwood, because Rockstar being Rockstar, they have to crack jokes everywhere, right? And I do like how this car looks overall. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't have a lot of customization options. Now, people will probably disagree with me on this. They will say, well, it does have a lot of customization options. It has a lot of spoilers, bumpers, whatever. But most of them are just absolute ricer mods. No one's going to use them. I'm talking about clean spoilers and lips that people will actually use. This car doesn't have a lot of them, unfortunately. And it does have a rack that you can put in the back where the trunk goes. And it does give you the benefit of having a spoiler, but it's chrome. And on this car, there is a lot of chrome everywhere, and you can't really change it because Rockstar is weird. As you can see here, I'm going for a black look with the whole trim and everything. I think chrome on these older cars, if you're trying to make it look more up to date, kind of dates it even more. And you can't change the chrome paneling next to the window and whatnot, and you cannot change the chrome basket that this car has an option to have. You can only have it as chrome. Unfortunately, you cannot have it as black. But customization, I would say all around is okay. Now, performance is definitely not very great on this car. It handles pretty weird. It has a lot of oversteer and or understeer, and is overall just a weird car to drive. It's very twitchy, and I don't know, I just don't like driving the Postwood. I think it is a cool car to have in a garage. Once again, pretty much all these cars are good to have in a garage. But I wouldn't drive this very much at all. The Maxwell Asbo. The Asbo is based off of a second generation Opel Corsa, and overall, I think it is a very strange car to add. Now, I added this terrible looking livery on it, but I did that kind of as a callback to the Harley Quinn Volkswagen Golf, which was known to sit on dealer lots ever since it came out, and nobody wanted it, nobody cared for it at all. It was just a Golf with mismatching body panels that were different colors, and it was just absolutely weird. A terrible decision from Volkswagen, but I just wanted to put it on my car because I think it looked funny. Overall, the Asbo has pretty decent customization. You can make it look clean, but I don't think this car is meant to look clean. I think this car was very cool for a lot of Europeans in GTA Online, because in Europe, this car is basically the Honda Civic of Europe. So you see these everywhere apparently, and for them to have it in GTA Online whenever they play, it gives them a more sense of home, I would say, and I think it definitely increased Rockstar's credibility with the European crowd. But once again, customization is average, performance is absolutely terrible, so don't expect nothing from this car. It is probably even worse than the car before, which was the Postwood, and the Postwood is pretty bad, but this car is just bad all around. I mean, I just have it simply for the novelty once again. Pretty much every single one of these cars have been novelties, except for a couple. And I definitely think this car could benefit from HSW, because how cool would it be for this car to go like stupid fast? It doesn't have to handle great because it's front wheel drive, but if this car just had HSW mods to go fast, I think that would be absolutely sick. But who knows, maybe we'll see it one day, maybe we won't. And that is it, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate every single one of you. I cannot say that enough. I really do. I hope you all enjoyed the video, found it informative or comedic, and have a good day. Goodbye.